Okay, I'm on a beaver job here in the south. It's early November, still kind of green, and we've got us where they put boards in this contraption they build to raise the water, and you'll see the whole thing here in a minute. And I'm going to be setting a whole bunch of different types of sets, and I want to show you some things about this beaver location that'll help you out. But the first thing I want to show before I get into it, we'll talk a little bit about beaver snaring and some beaver snares, different way to set your snares up. Why a kill pole? Every trapper that traps beaver and it's going to snare them, they need to be using these. And I want to show you how simple they are to use, how simple they are to make, where you can get the stuff at. But I want to show you that before we get started on the beaver. This is the kill pole. They can be, I started off when I started playing with kill poles. The original idea come from Ron Hansen out of Iowa. He was using them on coons. He had a lot different setup in the way he was setting them up. And I've used smooth bar, rebar. I've cut up some of my slide poles that I get, the graphic slide poles that I get from the guy out of Minnesota. And this particular one here, I was down at the tractor supply store, and they had someone that ordered these 1/2-inch fence posts that are made out of fiberglass for electric fences, and they didn't come pick them up. They're not the cheapest thing, but I'd say if some little entrepreneur out there in the trapping industry could find a way to get this material cheap, he could have a good little business selling these kill poles and other products from it. It's fiberglass, it's not carbon like the other guys, but I've used them on beaver and coon with no problems. I've even caught a few otter with them, no problems. They're smooth, and this material, when it goes in the ground, it acts almost like a suction cup. So even though it's smooth, it's real hard to get out. We're going to put a kill pole in down here, and I'm going to show you how fast it is and why it's such a neat thing to be using, because it's such a time saver. Because when you're going out and you're going to set your beaver traps, instead of spending all your time setting your traps, you ought to be spending more of your time looking for the next location. Your sets ought to go in real fast. It takes planning and strategy to do that. But all this is, like I said, is a 1/2-inch fiberglass fence post. This top up here is just, if I remember right, it's 1/2-inch conduit like you would get at an electrical store. And before we put this on the pole, I've welded number 9 wire into a U right here. I zap it here, I bend it around the end of a pipe, and I zap it here. That's the only 2 welds on here. And then I put a piece of vice grip and I put a couple of wraps around it so it's got spring. And then once that cools off, I slide it down over the top of the pipe, and I'm sure you can see that. It's I just take the end of my digging hammer and hit it 4 or 5 times on each side, and it crimps it on here to the point you can't get it off. You would think that you'd be able to, but you can't. But what makes this so neat over my rebar rods is I can grab 6 or 8 or 10 of these in my hand, and they don't weigh anything. I mean, it's almost like I'm playing with plastic, because in a way I am, but it's a real I mean, I can carry probably literally, I could put 200 of these in a boat, or maybe even 100 of them in a canoe, and not have to worry about weight. And if I did that with any type of metal material, I'd be in trouble. But that's all that is a spot weld here. I bend the wire over and I hit it again. I put my vice grips to crimp it right here, and I give a couple of wraps around it with the vice grips on it, and that keeps all the pressure off of this weld with your number 9 wire. Real simple type thing to use. Now the snares I'm using are I use 2 different kinds. I've got the ones that I use for our high fence work. This is one we catch coyotes with under fences. It only goes to 9 inches, which is as big as about anything you'll ever need for a beaver. It's got a swivel right here. It's got a support collar. It's using a micro lock really fast. It's got a pigtail that's long enough for us to use on the fence or these kill poles. That's the reason I like using them. This is more of a type of snare. After I catch something, I can only save some of the parts and have to redo the whole thing. This design right here, very good functioning beaver snare, even though it's designed for our high fences on coyotes. Now the other type of snare I have, and this has actually had a beaver in it on a kill pole, but I wanted to show you this so you can see with a kill pole how little damage you get. And I've kind of bent this back because I'm going to use it again. But it's 1/16 1x19, extremely fast. I got the micro lock on this one. And my high fence snare here is also 1x19, but it's 5/64. Support collar. The difference on this one is it has a universal swivel. This universal swivel goes to about 6 feet of a pigtail. But the universal swivel, what it allows me to do is when I go out beaver trapping, I can make up, you know, 20 or 30 or 100 of these, whatever I'm going to be using, of complete snares. That's where your most cost comes into, is the whole thing. By building them this way, then I can make my replacement snares by doing nothing but building from this rivet here on my universal swivel out. So I can just make these loop ends and it costs less money. So when I make a catch, I open my J-hook, I take my old loop end off, it's been up too much, I put a new one on, close my rivet, and I've got a brand new snare that I'm using to catch 2 animals, but it doesn't cost near as much as 2 snares do. Just trying to save a little bit of money, but that's a neat concept you might want to try, is using these universal swivels. Plus, having swiveling, you'll notice both of my swivels are right here by the lock. To me, that's extremely important, because what that does is as the beaver starts twisting, I'm not getting a tourniquet effect like I would if I had a swivel clear out here on the end and it was a long snare. And I get a lot less fur damage and leather damage by having this universal swivel than even I do over having a snare swivel. It's a little more bulky, costs a little bit more to start off with, but to me it's a whole lot better in fur damage and stuff. Plus I can reuse these a lot faster on the line. And that's the type of snares we're using. We're going to go over here and I'm going to show you how fast this kill pole is to put in.